Jimmy Butler officially introduced to Minnesota today, and it was hardly your normal everyday press conference. Then again, nothing about the Butler deal has been normal. You want to know how Jimmy found out Chicago had traded him? He was in Paris with Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade, and Gabrielle Union playing a late-night game of spades, you know how you do, when his agent called him to tell him he was going to the Timberwolves. And while Jimmy was gracious on the way out the door, not everyone else was. Here was Antoine Walker on ESPN Radio. Take a listen.
He's just a bad locker room guy. A lot of outbursts took place throughout the season with the coaches, with the players, and you're trying to build something, especially in Chicago, and he's going to be your best player. He has to be a leader on and off the court, and he did a poor example of that, and I think that's why the Bulls kind of parted ways with them.
Damn. So, of course, Jimmy was asked about that quote at his presser today and whether that kind of talk in general was frustrating. Here is what he said.
It's not frustrating. It's expected. Somebody's got to take the blame. I'll be that guy. I'm okay with it. I'm fine. Everybody is entitled to their opinion. But with that being said, my phone's in my back pocket right now. If whoever has anything to say to me, feel free. 773-899-6071. So if you want to interview, there you have it. Please do.
I mean, that's amazing. Rock star move. And by the way, he wasn't kidding. Here is the voicemail you get when you call that number.
Jimmy Butler. Sorry I couldn't get to the phone, but leave your name and number, and I'll hit you back. If you got any beef, definitely leave a message.
The mailbox is full and cannot accept any messages at this time. Goodbye.
Oh, I bet it is. So good. Jimmy wasn't dumb, though. No, he not only dinged his critics and promised this bright future for the Timberwolves, but hey, we're in the super team era. So, of course, he also immediately promised he will try recruiting more stars to Minneapolis.
We're good, really good. And I'll be talking to a lot of really good players, much better than myself, I would tell you that, and get them here to join what we have. I know that with the support that I've already felt from this city, they're definitely going to love it. Getting here with this young core, winning these games, anybody's going to want to be a part of that. Now it's all about getting the right fit to fit with these guys.
I'm not sure how realistic all that is. Tom Thibodeau is not exactly Daryl Morey when it comes to throwing caution to the wind on trades. So while we might see some tinkering still to come, I wouldn't expect a roster overhaul. But honestly, the Timberwolves don't need that. They have Karl Anthony Towns, who was impressive himself today, by the way. He showed up at Butler's news conference in Minnesota in the middle of the summer, even though he certainly didn't have to. They also have Andrew Wiggins, who is still developing. And hey, they got Jimmy Butler, who went up on that podium and showed everyone he's going to be just fine. And if you don't believe me, hey, you can call him yourself. All right, so Scotty, how much pressure is there on Butler in Minnesota? He certainly came out with a lot of bravado today. He set the bar pretty high.
He did, and I don't think it's any pressure.
Really?
I just don't think that city demands that yet.
Oh.
I think it can come with Thibodeau there. He's definitely going to demand it. But I think for the Minnesota fans, they've never had the pressure of winning. And I don't think it's going to be added now that Jimmy is there. But Jimmy will give this franchise a lot of uplifting with the young players that they have, the opportunity to win, the opportunity to be a playoff contender. I feel very good about this situation because I think Tibbs is a guy that can rejuvenate Jimmy's career and give him that, I guess, another level of superstar status. And that's what I think Jimmy needs, and he's trying to demand it, but I think in Chicago, he didn't handle it very well, and I think it really turned the organization.
Wait, why do you think he didn't handle it well?
Well, I just didn't think that he handled from a leadership standpoint of what it takes to be a superstar.
Any specifics?
Sounds like he's going to be calling him soon.
No, I can't call him. His thing's full.
His voicemail's full.
But I mean,
I'm asking just because, we heard Antoine Walker say it. I'm hearing you say it now. My experience with Jimmy Butler has been very good. I get that version of Jimmy Butler that was up on the podium today.
Same here.
So what are the specifics that people are saying he wasn't good in the locker room?
Well, it's just a lot of locker room talk that Jimmy was disrespecting the head coach, disrespecting the assistant coach, just wasn't showing that type of leadership that you expect from your best player. And again, they did part ways and things were on a bad side, but I think it was a win-win situation for both. I think the Bulls are happy with what they received, and I think Jimmy will be happy in his position in Minnesota.
I will say this, nobody knows Jimmy Butler better than the Bulls. I mean, they worked with him every day for his whole career. So they made this decision based on knowledge that no other team has. And
Tom Thibodeau knows him pretty well, and he made the decision that he wanted him in his locker room.
That is an excellent point. I'm just, say it. The Bulls, there was a reason why the Bulls decided to trade him. That said, as you look forward to Minnesota, they inherited the problems that the Bulls had, which are he's got 2 years left on his contract. We know in the NBA, 2 years left on your contract actually means 1 year left on your contract. Because look at Paul George. That was one of the reasons why the Bulls moved on now. So they haven't made the playoffs in 13 years. The good news is the bar is relatively low. You lead this team to the playoffs, it's a
Everyone's
success.
happy.
It's fantastic. They'll be ready to offer the extension. But there isn't necessarily going to be like these new press conferences with these guys signing 4- and 5-year deals in the next week.
Right.
There is a bit of a pressure on the timeline. And it's not just for Jimmy Butler. It's also on the rest of the organization. They still have salary cap space to put pieces around him.
And Tom Thibodeau, too. He came in and everyone had this wave of excitement. They did not live up to expectations, as you said, this year. Certainly your expectations. What were you predicting them at?
I never make predictions. And
yet?
And I really thought they were going to be a playoff team last year, and that's why I don't make predictions. I will say this. They lost so many games the last 2 years because they couldn't execute in the final 5 minutes of a game. Jimmy Butler, no matter what anybody says about him, has shown he can be an excellent clutch player. To get a guy who plays both ends of the court at the shooting guard position, which is one of the most in-demand positions in the league, and be able to be the guy who gets in the clutch, it's very rare to get your hands on this type of player. And that's why this is a home run deal for the Timberwolves, no matter what anybody else.
In all fairness, and to what you're saying, the reason why the Timberwolves didn't make the playoffs is probably because of the loss of Zach LaVine.